Kang, we are now privileged to be joined by Yahoo Sports columnist and best-selling author Dan Wetzel, who's got a hold on everything that's going on in the college football layout and just to help us kind of make sense of where we are. And Dan, thanks so much for joining us here on 97.1 The Ticket.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. How are you?
Real good, real good. How are you doing? I mean, the last 24 hours, it's kind of, we've described it as a little bit of a roller coaster ride, and not even just the last 24 hours, but really it seems like since the Big Ten schedule was released, there's been even more uncertainty. So let's kind of start there with what's taken place since that big meeting at 10:30, and where do we stand here now at a little bit after noon?
Still in a wait and see approach right now on on exactly what's going to happen. This time yesterday is almost overwhelming that the sentiment was they would cancel fall sports in the Big Ten today. This was more of a formality, and the Big 12 would go along with them. My guess is that will still happen, maybe not today or at some point, but the really strong push by coaches and players, particularly yesterday, in making their case on why they think they should continue on. I could certainly see that have this decision tabled for a couple weeks. Give it a little more time. The season is supposed to start September 5th. That's the first part of the Big Ten. So you're running out of time to get full padded practices and get ready for the season. COVID is one thing. Football is a dangerous game no matter what. So everyone needs to be in shape. But there is time to push the season back really all the way to September 26th or even later. So it's possible they come out of this and say, hey, look, we're gonna take a couple more weeks to study it, see how the interaction goes when players and students are back on campus and different things like this. But it is an uphill fight, although I think the Harbaugh, Ryan Day, Scott Frost, and certainly players throughout not just the Big Ten, but Trevor Lawrence and all over the country made, a compelling case on, hey, we think we're not arguing the science. We're just saying the protocols and the standards of what we have on our campus and in our program can keep us safe while the virus is there, and we would actually be safer playing football, even though we're going to breathe on each other for a couple hours a day because of all the things we're going to do the rest of the hours rather than being regular students or going back to our hometowns.
Well, Dan, you kind of just mentioned it. This football's supposed to start real soon here, September 5th, you said, but they put out the schedule, and there was flexibility when they put out the schedule, so they could push it back if need be, or things had to be postponed. But then all of a sudden we have the rumors coming out where it's a 12-2 vote that they want to postpone or push back the season or suspend the season. How much of the we want to play movement and the coaches we want to coach movement, how much is that really weighing on them tabling the discussion, or is this for show? Do you know what I mean? Ultimately, is it just going to be, hey, we're kicking the can down the road because we're still going to make the same decision, but we're not doing it right now instead?
Yeah, and that's if they kick it down the road. I don't know. I mean, you want to make. I think anybody would say, let's make this decision in a vacuum. Let's make this decision based on medical and safety protocol, all of those things. But in the end of the day, it's still a political decision, and I don't mean Republican, Democrat, but just. These are individuals who have to make this call. There's a president of the university. There's also often chancellors of campus. There's board of trustees. There's just so many. You have politicians weighing in on this. You have so many different people involved. So it's a human decision. And so to say, look, if everybody's shouting and riling it up, that might not impact. It might. But you have very smart people, and you have medical boards, and you have a decision. I think that the complication here, and I get the frustration because it's sort of like you want the season played or the season that gets played or canceled. It's a stark division. But both sides have really good points. So if you have medical people saying, look, this is pointless. So why would we try this? This is not safe. Football's it doesn't work during a pandemic. They're making a science argument, and they may be making that argument with the best understanding and belief and knowledge they have. And then you have, say, Harbaugh saying, look, we're not arguing the science. We're not arguing those facts. What I'm saying is the way we keep people safe, the way we would conduct our business here, these guys are safer because of our protocol. What we know in sports is the best way to compete safely is to have a bubble. All the bubbles are working in the various sports. They're doing them. Well, they can't do that in college football, but you can create some kind of a bubble by saying, look, our guys are at our facility 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day. They're over here eating. They're surrounded by professionals. Scott Frost at Nebraska mentioned just the motivation of saying, hey, we're going to have a game on Saturday might keep a player from putting himself at some kind of risk. And that could be going to some big party on a Friday night or Thursday night, or it could even be jamming into a dorm room with 5 other guys playing Madden for 3 hours, right? It could be any of those things. So there's all sorts of ways that I think both sides are making, good faith and poignant arguments for what they're saying. And you have a president in the middle or the campus leadership that's got to pick which one. And so that's why I think maybe there's a little pause, maybe not. I certainly would not be surprised if the Big Ten comes out and makes an announcement and says, we've canceled fall sports. I'm not saying this is teetering, but it's certainly there seemed to be some momentum for that. There was a slowed momentum for that in the last 24 hours, and I think that's fair. They should listen to some coaches and some players and consider that.
Dan Wetzel of Yahoo Sports joining us here on 97.1 The Ticket. Dan, the SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey was on Good Morning America this morning, and to paraphrase, he certainly seemed to be making it clear that the SEC is very, very much leaning towards playing in some capacity. If you look at college football on the national scale, if, let's say, hypothetically, the Big Ten is to make a decision to cancel and the SEC says, let's go ahead and play, what are some of the long-term implications of really an impactful decision like that?
Well, I don't know the exact wording he gave on Good Morning America today, but in general, all the leagues have been pretty, including the SEC and Greg Sankey, have been very consistent in saying until the medical people tell us not to move forward, we will continue to move forward. And they have pushed their season back a little bit. And this is why you canceled the non-conference, to give yourself this flexibility, right? But they have not approved playing games at the SEC yet, unless something happened this morning. They have said we can move to this level or this phase. And that's one of the things. Like in the Big Ten, they can't even practice in full pads. So until we get to that level, how do you have a game? You can't have a game. So we're moving slowly. So it may – sometimes I think some of these things are like, well, these guys are a go. The Big Ten is technically still planning on playing a football season. They released a schedule 5 days ago. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get there. So I don't know that any of these leagues are 100% gung-ho we're doing it. Greg Sankey has also said, look, because, one of the arguments like all of us make is – if this decision is not centralized like it would be in the NFL or something like that, what's good for the Big Ten may not be good for the SEC or vice versa. So if the Big Ten cancels, why doesn't the SEC just go alone? Who cares? At least there's some college football on here. For whatever reason, and I would think you could do it, but for whatever reason, when you talk to these people at commissioner level and the athletic director level, there's just not an appetite to go it alone and do it yourself. Now, could you get a Big 12, ACC, SEC, say we're all going to play? You get the military academies, maybe BYU would jump in. There'd be a few. That's possible, but if the Big Ten and the Pac-12 bail out, it becomes a lot less likely that those other leagues will continue on. There just isn't, for whatever reason, there just isn't that interest in going it alone. They certainly could, but that probably won't happen. But I wouldn't take any comment from any of the leagues like we're definitely doing it. As a lot of times that can be, slightly misinterpreted or whatever. I don't know exactly what he said, but the SEC could still cancel out their football season.
I think we know everything's pretty much fluid, if anything,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you just don't know anymore. One more thing before we let you go, Dan. If the fall football season and fall sports are canceled, and let's just get specifically into football, how realistic do you think a spring season is, and is that a good idea, in your opinion?
Yeah, the schools have looked
Dan?
challenges.
We lost you real quick there. I'm sorry. What did you say?
The schools have only started to really look in it. Obviously, there's huge challenges. Your best players are going to bail. They're just going to go to the league, and I don't blame them. How many games could you play in the spring? Is things better in the spring? What kind of TV money is there in the spring? It could be big. It could be small. We don't know because there's so many unknowns. But how would it impact the 2021 season? You can't really play. This is not an appetite to play 12 games in the spring and 12 games in the fall on a bunch of college kids. That's an awful lot of games in an 8-9 month window, basically 2 full seasons. So it creates all sorts of other challenges. I'm not saying it wouldn't happen, but it's not just simple. And would you rather say, do you want 2 8-game seasons, or would you rather just say, all right, this isn't happening, but fall of 2021, we're full boat back into this? And that's obviously the hope that we are in a better shape a year from now. I think a lot of people would just say, let's just go to 2021 and do the whole thing, and get fully back up. But
yeah,
it'll become the next debate. It's not simple. It's also what is spring? Spring in the South is one thing. Spring in the
there's going to be snow here still, Dan. You live here. You know this, man, right? So
yeah, I mean, when do you start playing?
Exactly.
April?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Dan Wetzel, Yahoo Sports, thanks, man. We appreciate the time. It's also got a podcast with Pat Forty. You guys do a great job on that, talking college football and everything else, too, as well. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it, Dan.
All right. Thanks, guys. Take care.
That was Dan Wetzel, Yahoo Sports. This is 97.1 The Ticket.